Hello, welcome to another World of UX podcast. This is your host, Dr. Darren Hood. Thanks for taking the time to join us today. Welcome, those of you who are listening for the first time. As I have finally finished my schoolwork, or at least part of the schoolwork, because I'm going back to school. Some of you folks know that, but I've got some time now to have guests on the show again, and I am so happy and so excited to talk to one of my old peers. We have not talked in about a couple years one-on-one, and I'm so glad to have this person on the show today. I've been watching him from afar, things that he's been doing from an educational perspective in UX. Things are really, really huge. A lot of integrity, fantastic passion for the discipline. I have the utmost respect for this individual, and I'm so happy that he took time out of his schedule to join me on today. Today, going to have with me my guest today. He is I'm looking at his LinkedIn profile. He is listed as the principal researcher of hxrlabs.com. He is really doing some fantastic work there, but cue you in a little bit. He's not just the principal researcher. He is the CEO. He is the person that is behind this brainchild that's helping people who are interested in getting into UX on the healthcare side of things. Wonderful arena to engage in from a UX perspective. We're going to get into that in more detail, but I'm going to stop my introduction there. The one, the only, joining with us today, Eric Shumake. Welcome to the World of UX, sir. Glad to have you.
Darren, it's so great to be back. Or I should say Dr. Darren, Dr. Hood. Congrats on your PhD. It's amazing. It's been 2 years since last we chatted. We followed each other, have been peers for, over a decade.
Yeah.
We were mentioning how skinny we both look. So that's that's something to celebrate. So things are going great. It's great to be back here. Congrats on your accomplishment, and thank you for the kind words. Yeah, I mean, I've been doing this over 20 years. The days are long, but the years are short. I think another thing I really like at this stage is giving back, and so I've been doing a lot of teaching as well. And training and helping people transition into and get into the field, because I believe we need, 10 more of me out there doing this. The field needs good designers. Right. You have to have the right kind of, baseline training, just to get in the door. Right. And so it's good to have a friend in healthcare UX. And that's what I've been trying to be for folks.
Fantastic. We have a list of topics that we're going to cover. And this is pretty much going to be the same thing I did when I had the folks from HFI recently. I am so interested in hearing about everything that you've been doing. So we've got a list of things that we're going to cover. I'll only jump in here and there. That's my plan. I know you just mentioned one thing that I'll probably ask you about in a bit, but we're going to jump right into it here. Eric, what makes healthcare UX unique? A lot of people probably already thinking, Darren, healthcare UX, what's the difference between healthcare? I just want to do UX. I'm just interested in UX, or as they say, breaking into the field, which I hate that phrase, but I know what some people mean when they say it, but I hate it because for some people it's a Freudian slip. You can tell when they get in, but healthcare UX is different. I've worked in that arena. Help the people understand what makes healthcare UX unique.
Sure. I mean, it's, one, just the context, right? It's healthcare. And so it's different than a commercial app. Like, the stakes are different. It's not like a pizza app where you get a pizza delivered late or cold or to the wrong house. Not only are people's lives on the line, their well-being, their own, emotional and psychological safety, but then there's liability, there's legal exposure, regulatory issues. And so, you really have to cover the basics in the same way I think that you would want a trained surgeon or a trained healthcare clinician to know the basics about hygiene and standards of practice, right? And so, I think, it's a matter of training, but it's not that hard to get in. And there's a few different ways that you can break into the field. So it's really more a matter of intent to plant your flag there, because I don't see generalist resumes. I'm not saying it's not happening, but I'm not seeing a lot of generalist resumes getting hired in health tech right now.
Wow.
Because it's competitive, right? And so, it's good to be a generalist in how you can deliver, right? But then you should really, it helps to commit, and specialize. And so if you specialize within healthcare, there's still worlds within worlds, right? I've moved between, mental health and oncology and, EHR systems, FDA clearance filing. I mean, there's all these different things that you can do within healthcare. But every time I've specialized in my career, it's really my career's leapt up an order of magnitude, right? And so when I decided to plant my flag in healthcare, so many more opportunities became available to me within healthcare. And so it's a combination of specializing in your unique vertical, in this case, healthcare, right? So how do you keep people safe? How do you keep things ethical? How do you, make sure people's dignity is respected? Delivering on that, I think is, if that feels like it's a fit for you, if delivering to that higher standard, because it's very different than I worked at an agency, right? And they'd have the bar cart that came around at like noon on Friday. And I'm not even that much of a drinker, right? But the cart would come around, and so it's none of that in healthcare, right? It's very serious. It doesn't mean we don't have fun, but it is at a the assumption of people being credible and serious and having done everything well, that's what determines who gets hired, I think, in health tech.
That's fantastic. And you make some really fantastic points there. I love hearing that perspective with regard to specialization, because I know that there's a trend going back to the way it was prior to 2011. But one of the things I tell people all the time is that, yeah, we used to do all the things and then the specialization started. But if that is indeed how things are playing out in the healthcare world, that specialization gives you a leg up, and that's the direction the person wants to go, then, I mean, more power to you. However, I do think, and tell me what you think about this.
Yeah.
When a person, if you want to specialize, fine. But I do believe that if you want to focus on research, the more you know about design, the better researcher you'll be.
Yes.
And vice versa, because there are things that you understand that help to pretty much empower you. So what's your take on that?
I absolutely agree, right? And so I think to clarify about the specialization, because it was, like I was saying, like specialize in 2025, right? And other people were like, you need to be a generalist, right? And people thought they were opposed, but they're not. It's that you specialize in whatever the vertical, right? Healthcare and fintech, right? You do that at the time, right? I'm not saying even for a whole career, but specialize and focus, right? And then you deliver. If you need to deliver on the research side, then you wear the research hat. If you need to deliver on strategy or on design, right? You deliver on that. Even if they need you to throw a workshop because UX people are good at workshops, like, you know what? It could be a good way to get goodwill, right? You help them out like with a good workshop. Technically, they should be running their own, but right. So you wear all those hats. And so you deliver as a generalist, but also to your, I think, point of, being able to move around in your career, right? Because my whole career wasn't in healthcare. I've got a lot of background in fintech and consumer packaged goods, right? And did some Ubisoft stuff, right? Like, whatever. While healthcare really resonated with me and I decided this is where I want to stay. If I could still move, right? Like, if somebody were good in health tech, and I knew somebody that was hiring in fintech, I'd be like, hey, why don't you talk to them? Because they've been proven in a regulated environment, right? So there's a broader commonality but there is still, it's less so than healthcare, but to get into fintech, you have to show a little bit of, regulatory knowledge and, some of that baseline stuff too. So you can, it's still though, I think it's because our brains can cognize back, right? They can abstract back rather than they can come into something from something that's abstract, right? And what I mean by that is, if somebody is in, with my previous example, if somebody, I know they're good in health tech, then I know they're good in health tech. I know they're good in regulated environments, and I can abstract back into fintech, right? But if I don't know they're good at anything specific, if they're just a generalist, then I can't even come up with their name in the first place, right?
Right.
And and I think, health tech has a pretty broad halo. So if you work here for a while, I do recommend you specialize to be competitive. But let's say you get burnt out in 3 years or in 6 years, right? And you're like, okay, I want to go into entertainment apps or whatever, right? Gaming apps. Healthcare transfers well from that. Nobody's going to think you don't have skills, right? And so there is that mobility, but there is something magic that happens when you get very, very specific and commit to some things and not others, right? First time it happened, I was doing WordPress sites. I mean, this is ages ago, like 20 years ago, right? And there's WordPress work everywhere. But I didn't like crying into a keyboard at 3 a.m, trying to fix code that was still above my head, right? And so it seemed scary at the time, but I disavowed all development of all WordPress. And I was like, am I going to be able to get a job? Right. And that's when UX was just starting to kind of get hired for. And so I got hired right away on a very competitive. I got hired at the Integer Group, which is a part of the Omnicom, and so that's where I was working on Ubisoft, Clairol, Michelin, Mars Wrigley, all that stuff, right? And that's actually where I got my first health tech gig, which was with Johnson & Johnson AccuView. But yeah, I caught the bug, right? There's something about health tech where it's about advancing humanity, right? It's about that altruism that really resonates. Yeah. You mentioned you had worked in health tech.
Yes.
What was your experience?
I worked for BD, Becton Dickinson.
Sure. Yeah. Surgical.
And specifically,
I know a couple colleagues there. Yeah.
Yeah. And specifically, I focused on vascular access.
Okay.
So we had an application that previously, and this, you're going to laugh, they at the time the app that they used to manage vascular access was in a PowerPoint presentation.
Wow. Okay.
So we had to take the experience from the PowerPoint presentation and transition it into a SaaS.
Okay, nice. I see some easy wins there.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun.
Cool.
What I love about health related UX operation. Oh, and I forgot about Omnicell. I worked in Omnicell too.
Nice.
So the autonomous pharmacy.
Cool.
And working on SaaS solutions for them as well. But in either case, what I personally love about healthcare, and to me, this is something I've never said before, and I'm going to say it on this show, and somebody might get angry at me for saying it, but I mean in a different, so you really, I think healthcare UX is the pinnacle of UX operation. I had to wait for you to come on the show to say that, but I do believe that, and it's for the same reason you just mentioned. I love it because I love UX, period. But I love where UX intersects with life. And the more that it intersects with life, the more that's at stake, the more intrinsic satisfaction I think I get out of it. And so that's like the pinnacle. And I've worked for automotive OEM. I've worked for banks. I've done all types where I did work for Bosch. We were doing all types of stuff at Bosch, all kinds of products. But it was the healthcare that no matter whether I ever go back into that arena or not, it will always be the nearest and dearest to my heart because you don't get any closer to life than that. So
right, and the change is mattering, right, to people in their most vulnerable, right, and it can be something even just changing microcopy to something that's more humanizing, right, that's less confusing.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I really love it. But we're going to move on to the next topic. You mentioned in one of your notes, you said that healthcare is a resilient sector. Talk about that a little bit. What you mean by that, and help people to understand what's going on. What do you mean resilient? I know somebody's going to be thinking that.
Yeah.
So take it away.
So just by the numbers, healthcare. There's a report in the Atlantic. This is about even close to about a year and a half ago now, when there was that broad hiring freeze, and insulated from that hiring freeze was healthcare, and then there was also state and local hiring, and that was interesting, right? And then that correlates with every job report since then. And I mean, for years, go back and confirm, for at least the last year and a half, healthcare hiring has single-handedly propped up hiring in the U.S. So on every other field is either flat or upside down. You'll see, healthcare is hiring 50,000 this month, right, or this quarter. 70,000. The only one time it was down was because there was a nurses' strike that had taken those nurses, 20,000 of them off the books, but they got better rights and those jobs didn't go away. So even that low mark was a mirage. And then you couple that with the aging boomer population in the U.S., right, and the expansion of just healthcare need in aging populations globally. The whole sector is growing in leaps and bounds, right? The World Economic Forum, in their report from I think third quarter last year, listed UX in that kind of broad category in one of the top 10 of their their overall career growth categories, and UX is projected to grow faster globally, just UX as a whole, internationally, because there is some UX maturity that's slowing it down in the US, right? All good news, all great weather, right? And not all of those 50,000 or whatever on average jobs are going to be in UX. Of course they're not, right? But all those systems have EHR systems that they have to have people that get to work. Like, you have to match the EHR system to the operational reality. That is work that is done 24/7. Those places don't close. Those are your hospitals, major regional healthcare centers.
Right.
You have then the vendors who deliver the software to them. You can work on the vendor side. You can work on the facility side, right? You get real up close with the doctors, or if you're on the vendor side, you work with maybe 4 or 5 regional facilities. There's work in the insurance sector. Insurance sector it pays a bit more, but you might see some things come across your desk, like, prior authorizations and I know some very good people on the insurance side that are trying to make it better, but you really have to have the capacity for incremental change, right, to work there. But also there is good stable money there. Clinical billing and coding, right? So there's all these different places, I think, within healthcare, that. I mean, I don't know. It's just worlds within worlds. I think I'm going down a bit of a rabbit hole there, but you can good. Really. There's so much, not just stability, but like variety. And then, I think health tech used to get made fun of a little bit as being, kind of slow and analog, like, 10, 15 years ago. And it wasn't entirely undeserved, right? Insurance companies were keeping it analog. They were trying to keep everything slow and proprietary, right? And monopolized. But they couldn't be more different now. The number of people that are investing VC in health tech and startup apps. I had a student come back. I haven't vetted the stats, but it was upwards of 10,000 just mental health apps out there, on various markets, right, globally.
Some of those, so, yeah.
I mean, it's just, there's stuff happening everywhere in healthcare, right? And so there's the fact that there's the growth both in hiring and in the need for that, as and the wealth transfer from the boomer population. There's work all over the place, right? And it's really as much a matter of deciding what kind of work you want, right, in health tech. Hey, I want to work in health tech startups. You focus on that. That's one type of kind of, gig and environment. Or you say, hey, I want to work, maybe a research and teaching institution, and you work maybe at a healthcare facility that's aligned with the university. There's a lot more stability, and, you can do deeper work there. There's way more likelihood of being hired as a researcher researcher in that environment than there is in that first level kind of Series A startup environment, right? So, yeah, it's resilient. There's worlds within worlds, and you can specialize or you can hop around within healthcare. And it's just, it's a good place to plant your flag while we see a lot of UX in the commercial sector really, really take a beating. It's not just a correction anymore. I mean, I think it's more of an inversion, right? Historically, for a while it was a correction, but now, and they blame all this stuff on AI that's just bad governance or wanting to, just like, what do they call that? Just like, put like some really fast, like if you cut payroll, then your revenue, you look better for investors, right? And so I'm saying that poorly, but right.
No, I think people
and
get it.
People as human ballast, right? Like it's crazy. So yeah. Anyway, but yeah. So I say, health tech, come on in. The water's fine. We need more good designers, but you do have to do a little bit of work to get prepared and get taken seriously, and kind of jump in, right? So you can't come in that casually. You have to kind of focus and target. But even when they said like in the Great Depression, it was there was still like 7 out of 10 people had jobs or something, right? Like I mean, even in the worst markets, there's still those jobs, right? You just have to be specific. You have to be tenacious, and you have to also get creative and look where they're not advertising jobs, right? Right.
Yes.
I mean, it's 6,000 resumes an hour. This AI glitter blizzard of like, you've seen those hiring portals. This looks like Windows 2000. What do you do with what do you do with that? And you're not given any extra time to actually go through these and hire. It's like something they throw in your lap on top of something, right?
Yeah.
And so, it's all hiring is relational, and you have to figure out how to show value, and so. And this too, that like at least half, it has to be more now, like half of all jobs aren't even advertised, right?
Right.
Like people will call you, right? Boom. How do you figure those out? You look at those, those Series A, those Series B companies, right? They've just gotten their 20,000. They're looking to hire their first 1 to 5 designers, so 20 million, right? They get 50 million. They might be hiring a researcher in there too, right? Or a strategist. And you target those companies, and it's all public, so you can look those up. You can follow 10, 15, 20 of those companies. You don't know which one's going to be hiring, but amongst them that there will be hiring, right? Whenever they get that new money, they have to hire.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to play some people would call this the Debbie Downer segment. I'm going to interject something
Let's do it.
Because everything you said is fantastic to make sure that because some people will hear that and they'll become overly excited. And I want to temper that with two things.
Yes.
I talk to a lot of people who do UX work in healthcare in some way, form, or fashion.
Yes.
I'm currently in a series entitled The Harsh Realities of UX Maturity. And one of the things I talk about is the problem with hiring and how UX maturity impacts hiring. Everything that Eric said is true. Asterisk. So what I'm about to say doesn't change the truth of what he just said, but it's just something to keep everybody grounded and sober. The problems in UX hiring are not limited to certain sectors. So it's in healthcare too. And I talk to a lot of people. They work at hospitals. They work for healthcare systems. They work for insurance companies, healthcare insurance companies. And they did the same thing that I talked about just recently, last week, when they talked about getting a seat at the table, the quest for legitimacy. It's difficult to achieve legitimacy when companies keep hiring folks that don't understand UX, don't know what it is to operate in the trenches. And when you have a leader that doesn't know how to operate in the trenches, they cannot be empathetic for you when you live in the trenches. And so I've seen people, they tell the stories about going for walks and crying. They are trying to get out because and it's all the same thing. I don't know anybody that I interact with on a consistent basis that does not love UX. It's easy to fall in love with UX, I think. What people hate is the abusive work environments. What they
Yep.
hate is people who got the job because it fell in their lap, and nobody's going to turn down some crazy salary when somebody,
Right.
I want you to run our UX department and we're going to pay you $50 billion. They're not going to turn that down. They're going to take that job, and they do, and
Yep.
then they fake their way through it. And if you get hired at that company, that's going to impact you. And so you have to be ready to manage it. So that's number one. The second one, a personal story. I'll leave the company nameless, but a very big healthcare insurance company that a person was the head of design. We used to work together years ago. We were doing work at a creative agency, and they saw that I was in the market, and they were going to hire me sight unseen, but wanted me to come in and meet the team. Well, it just so happened that when I went to meet the team, she didn't know that I used to work with some of the team members. And some of the team members, and this is I know I was trying to keep myself minimized, but I think these are critical and they need to be said. So this is a double-fisted story. The people that work with her that used to work with me were all posers, retrofits, and upstarts that found their way into roles in that company. Those people gave me fits because they were always posers, retrofits, and upstarts are always trying to delegitimize the person who earned the legitimacy. I talked about that last week. They're always trying to do it because all you have to do is come to the room and start talking about doing things the right way, and you expose everybody who's putting on a front. Mm-hmm. When you're not even trying to. They kept me from getting hired. Go back a few years prior to that. And so I told the stories out of order. When that company was coming to open up offices in Metro Detroit, and folks would really get a kick out of it. I'm not going to share who the company is. I'm tempted to share who it is, but I'm not, because I don't want to throw those people under the bus. But it's more about the what, not the who. In my book here, a person was upset when I had my interview. A person was upset because they were opening an office in Detroit and they were moving work from another location to Detroit. So she was upset, and she spent the first 5 minutes complaining, venting about what they were doing. When she saw how qualified I was, she proceeded to sabotage my interview. They made sure to hire as many unqualified people as they were. And the goal was, I found this out, was to have that fail so that they would send the work back to the location that they brought it from. One guy came to the interview with sandals and a beach shirt. He looked like he just came from the beach. All the interviews were at Panera Bread. The initial interviews. It was my next interview. And that guy, I found out he got hired. He came in with, can I wear this? Can I wear that? He didn't know anything about UX. That was when the the visual designers were falsifying their way into UX roles en masse. And that's who they hired. And those were the same people who made sure I didn't get hired later. Also, so I'll cut this off here. Just because healthcare is a wonderful field to be in, a wonderful sector to be in, does not mean that the problems that you experience over here with this other group don't exist. They do. And so be ready to manage that. So, and I'll stop there.
No, absolutely. And I think sometimes when that happens in healthcare, then it's even worse because it's demoralizing about people's basic humanity, right?
Yep.
Because, unfortunately, there are more regulations, and there is a little bit of, you can't really sandbag too much in healthcare because you're having to deliver. Right. And so there's that accountability. But we've had stakeholders drive the app off a cliff. And we documented, we were like, this is a horrible idea. Why are you doing this? And then they did it. And the feedback came back. It was a horrible idea. They tried to blame it on us. We had documented in an auditable place and said, nope, we said this was a bad idea. And we weathered that. But that happens all the time. Right. And it's like you say, sometimes, even like bureaucracies, you wonder why bureaucracies really seem to chew up any individual initiative or ideas. And it's because they're designed to do so. The trade-off is large scale stability, right? But then there's kind of maybe a stupidity to the organization. And so that ties into what I say is, in consulting, you're paid for results, not activity, right? But in a full-time role, sometimes you're paid for activity, and sometimes that activity is that you're wasting something so it can be canceled, or it can be a tax bleeder, or it can, right, all kinds of stuff that seem insane, and insult our sensibilities, right? And it's hard to know, and it's easy to say, hey, get out of those types of environments, but we can't often. We've already committed, we're in the role, we're 6 months in, and all of a sudden we're like, wait a minute, like, this isn't what I signed up for, right? And so, yeah, I think those risks are there, right? And I say to people that, there's no armor like documentation. So just document when those things happen, document them quietly in an auditable place. Don't try to die on every hill, because even if you're later in your career, I walked from one project and it still hurt, but I mean, I'm not, every year that goes by, I'm more glad that I did, right? Because, like, but even even when you think you can do it on principle, it's still kind of hard to do that. And so, yeah, but don't, protect yourself from that kind of moral injury of being involved in something that you'd look back at in 10 years and be like, right. Just do try to, yeah.
Yes, yes. You mentioned, we're going to pivot to another topic. It
Cool.
came up briefly, and I was waiting to see what you're going to say. So now we can go there officially. The third topic, because everybody's talking about AI now. And I know some
Yeah.
people are probably curious. With everything that's at stake with healthcare UX, what is the role? What is AI's role in healthcare UX? Let's expound on that for a little bit.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, AI is interesting, right? I mean, AI is everywhere, and everybody's saying, AI this and AI that, and it sure feels like the bubble. It feels like the kind of, the dot bomb and the pets.com hype, right?
Yeah.
For those of us that remember it, for those that don't, it was a pet store and it was supposed to be online and nobody went there, and it crashed for millions, tens of millions. And it was emblematic of, what happened to the whole industry, right? And what happened was the hype of the internet, and particularly e-commerce, was kind of, it was overhyped, and none of it arrived when they thought it would. But it turns out 10, 15 years later,
Yes.
pets.com is not so as much of a thing, but we're all buying, pet food on Chewy or whatever, or, Amazon. And so it happened. And so I think the same thing with AI. There's a lot of hype and there's this sort of bubble it's not delivering on. There's going to be a crash. But in 10 years or 15 years, AI will be doing a lot of interesting things. The same way that little motors sort of revolutionized, like when we had little motors in our car windows or in our, where there's, or in our can openers, right? They're very convenient. So AI
Yeah.
is going to be like a little, information version of that. It's going to do little things where it can within its capacity, but they're trying to put AI everywhere. So what I don't feel there's a percentage in being anti-AI in healthcare, but the next thing out of my mouth is where not to use AI, right?
Yes.
And an example is, false alerts. It's notorious for generating false alerts, and then physicians get alert fatigue. They can't sort through what's a meaningful alert versus what's noise. And so, you have a case where, there's a legal precedent and there's a lawsuit for a certain set of criterion being met and an alert not going out. And so the product team and the, design team and the dev team like high five and ship it. And then immediately physicians can't use it because they're getting 20 false alerts for every one actual alert, right? And they have to roll the whole thing back. And so, but it is interesting in areas where, for rare disease diagnosis, right? So for pushing out expertise, I think it's really good for that, right? It can democratize access to healthcare information and diagnostics, particularly where it's, credible. The one in healthcare is called open evidence, and it's for physicians, and it's kind of the large language model that's trained on, credible peer reviewed, medical data. So it's the go-to, but it still has some pretty big misses, right? But it is good at helping diagnose rare diseases. There are things where you can just take a cell phone picture of somebody's back and AI can scan it at about the level of a, entry level tech, right? And that doesn't mean that person would be replaced. It just means they be moving faster. It's saying, hey, this is identified, take a closer look here, whatever it is, right? But you can really save on costs or like, facility management and resource, supply chain logistics of, let's say you've got a small rural hospital, you have to plan for seasonality and the right number of beds and doctors for flu season. And, you got to have more, antibiotics on, so it can help with that. Right. But we have to also remember that, the AI data sets are historical. They're not scientific. So there's layers and layers of bias in these like data sets. Mm-hmm. And everybody's kind of acting as if they're not, as if they're mapping off of reality. And so there have to be safeguards as far as bias, as far as blind spots, as far as, even just the historical, the genome mapping was only done on Caucasian white European, on white European males, for the first, 20 years. They're making great strides in fixing that now, right, with the Genome Project. But mm-hmm. there's inexcusable cases in healthcare. There's a famous study, or sort of even an expose of a blood oxygen monitor that worked accurately on light skin tones, yes. But then yes. on darker skin tones. And how was that out there? How is that company still even in existence? And so, there's just so much of that we have to correct for, right, and be aware of. So we cannot blindly trust AI. People immediately assign this impartial kind of, great, equation in the sky, impartiality to, but the data sets are highly biased, right? So we have to look at that. And then the way it's done, if it's extractive, we don't want that. Like, almost, we think that large language models are something new, but insurance companies have been using algorithms since before computers to deny people care, right? An algorithm is just a complex recipe of instructions, right? And so, when that's, when that's going through, people are like, oh, well, hey, the AI said it, right? It might, no, right. And so they're just going to try to accelerate denying people claims. There's prior authorizations and, the sort of the Luigis of the world, right? And taking, feeling like, look, you guys are murdering people wholesale and just really hiding it under complex sophistry, right? So I'm going to get myself in trouble here, but, it's like that on steroids, right? Nothing I'm saying, it's fine, right? I don't need to insult any good people out there doing good work, right? But it is true that people know that insurance companies have been doing that. It's in broad daylight. So there are problems with it. So when AI gets put in, it's whether it's extractive, right, or additive. Here's a more, I think, prosaic example. They did what's called an ambient scribe, right? So it just records everything in the doctor-patient conversation and then transcribes it, right? And so what will happen is when they're done with it and they have to do their notes, they're done with the appointment, that particular visit, the clinician will go and it'll get that bulk stuff that's transcribed, which is about 80% accurate, right? They'll go through and correct the rest of it. And so it saves them 80% of the time. Mm-hmm. So they went through, and what they found was that implementing this with the faster notes, that overall they were able to process patients 20% faster, right? So that 80% was within a smaller context, right? But on the whole, they were 20% faster, and so that meant they 20% more time the doctors felt to spend with their patients, talking with them, looking in their eyes, right? Not at all. What the hospital did is they just gave them 20% more patients, right? So they became more efficient. And then bam, right? And so what I advocate for is, of course, you have to do that, right? Of course, you have to get those efficiencies in and be more profitable. But maybe if it's 20% more efficient, that 10 goes to extra patients and 10 goes back to those physicians so they're not burnt out, right? Yes. Like that's the sweet spot of what AI can do, where it's a combination of, okay, it is extracting the value here, right? Because they're always looking for that increased revenue, right? And it's hard to run a hospital. It's hard to make a payroll. I have sympathy for that, right? They do have to make the money. Mm-hmm. But you also don't want to put that above patience. And so it's good to balance it. Yeah. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Great question.
It also sounds like a lost opportunity.
Hmm.
They look at how can we better process patients, but aren't there other things that you could use AI for, like how to better manage the staff so that you
Yep.
don't get burnout? I've been getting involved more and more with AI and the things that it can do when you know what it can do and you approach it the right way. Man, the things that you can do, especially when there's a lot of static, hard data,
Yep.
and you're just asking it to process that, and then you're keeping your position as the expert, but you're having information fed to you faster. Now you can achieve a decision faster because instead of taking 3 weeks to find all that data, you're taking 30 minutes.
Yes.
But don't get tunnel vision, folks. It don't just look at AI doing one thing. Try to find out how broadly it can be applied so that you're not just improving one area and then you're still missing 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10 other areas that you could also improve.
Right. It's almost
Yeah.
like it's like they head in the wrong direction, right?
Yep.
Because so what I'm seeing is all these. Tell me if you're seeing the same thing. Everybody's trying to do these artificial users, right? And these these AI things, and like they'll want to do sponsorships and sponsor my students, and I'm like, right, and so like they're trying to put AI in the worst possible place in the wrong possible direction. And I'm with you. I want AI to enable more human-to-human conversations,
Yes.
not this fabricated non-human talking to
Yes.
whatever. It's
Yes.
insane. So have the AI do the complicated stuff about, as we all know, booking an appointment, paying for it, confirming it, getting those no-shows down, right? And making it easy to find and recruit somebody and talk to them for 15 minutes, talk to them for an hour, right? And that's what AI should be doing. Who said it? They said, I want AI to be doing my laundry and dishes, not so I can be doing art, and poetry, not AI doing art and poetry. So, yeah. Anyway, I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great perspective. I'm with you on that. Yep.
It's amazing. And something else while you were breaking that down, I also thought about something. I just finished an AI intensive at Harvard. Phenomenal
Nice.
experience. That's what I'm going back to school for. I'm going to get my master's in AI strategy and innovation at Wake Forest. I start school in August. I start
Look
the
at
program.
you.
I want to
Nice.
learn it right. I love education. You know that about me. I
Yeah.
love education.
Oh,
I'm
I
thinking about
know,
I'm thinking
man.
about taking your class.
I
Actually.
thought I would be honored. Absolutely. Just say the word. And also, I thought I was a nerd, but man, you are setting the pace, my dude.
I
Tell me more.
believe in doing things right. But this one
Yeah.
thing that one of my biggest takeaways, as you were talking about that, is people are AI, 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 AI. They're team AI. They're waving the
Yeah.
banners. They got the pom poms. They got everything. And I love what somebody said. Artificial intelligence doesn't make up for realistic stupidity. Somebody made that statement, and it was a rather like really hard hitting statement, but it's really true. It's like, please, folks, don't be offended at that because you'll miss the gold.
Yep.
Worried about your skin. So thick skin is something you actually should have. The longer you're in it, the thicker your skin should be. So
It helps.
we can take that, laugh, and you know what? It is true. Let's laugh it off and move on, because here's the thing. I learned about something called human in the loop. And everybody's AI, 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 but AI can't do everything. And they said some beautiful things. One of the things they said was nobody's an expert. These people have been working in AI since way before somebody. I mean, we were just watching Terminator the other day, Terminator 2, and the stuff that they were talking about AI doing. It was back in the 80s and the 90s. This stuff, AI existed back then too.
Yep.
And people who were running the program at Harvard have been doing AI for a long time, and they said nobody's an expert. And even people who beware of people who claim to be experts.
Sure.
They're missing something. If the smartest people in AI in the world say that nobody's an expert, I'm going to believe them, not the person who just started doing AI stuff 2 months ago.
No, they're playing with fire.
Yeah, they are. And so AI can do, if there's 10 steps, and AI can do really is made to address 6 of those 10 steps, but there's a human in the loop. And we're there to coach, we're there to guide, we're there to establish the skills. And I like to say that artificial intelligence is an oxymoron.
Yeah.
So it's imitating intelligence, and it really is limited based on the humans that are overseeing it. So the more we learn about how to interact with AI, the better off we're going to be. There's going to be AI maturity. that's another wing of UX maturity that's going to come up. How good are you when it comes to AI? And then we're going to have a scale with regard to that, because I talk about all these other types of UX maturity that nobody ever talked about, because it was always about the organization, never about the person, never about the team, never about stakeholder UX maturity, never about educational UX maturity, all these other things I'm talking about. AI is going to come into the fray now too, because the people who jump on board and are just excited for the sake of being excited, that's not wise no matter what the topic is. And so with AI, that human in the loop, just putting it out there, we call it HITL. Everybody calls it HITL for short, HITL. Yeah. Folks, I encourage you, learn more. If you want to excel at AI, learn about 2 key things: human in the loop, where the human must be involved in what AI is doing, and governance. They said that of all the big enterprise companies that are engaging in and spending money on AI today, they said 85%, if I remember correctly, no, 75%, approximately 75% of enterprises are spending a ton of money on AI today, and 85% of those same companies have seen zero return.
Yeah, so health tech pilots. This is about 4 months out of date, but it was about 94-95% fail rate. On all pilots that were right. Yeah, and so a lot of companies that are out there saying they're AI have a Wizard of Oz behind the curtain. Who's doing it, but they're like, oh, this is all AI, right? There's a lot of companies. I would say most of them are doing that. I think that's really astute. And I think there's also, because of when the bubble bursts, just like there was after the .bomb, there's going to be a lot of jobs cleaning up those AI messes, right?
Yep.
Repairing the broken kind of user flows, user trust. So be on the lookout for that too. That there will be another hiring uptake. But I know this is it's such bad weather. I talked to students who've only seen the bad weather now, right? And I really, really feel for you guys. So just have heart, it will get better, and the field is, going through it. I think more than a correction now, a little bit of an inversion, but I think that's due to a lot of historical and ahistorical factors, like whatever is this administration madness and current sort of climate of anyway, insanity, but we'll leave that there.
Right. We're going to start to bring this in for a landing. So cool. we are approaching the home stretch with this last topic, and I'm going to blend in the wrap up with this. When I look at this last topic, I think about that. So we're going to come in for a landing where we've asked the tower for permission to land. Now, the program where you're teaching folks to understand about doing healthcare and UX, mega kudos. I just excited from the moment I heard about it. I keep seeing people talk about how much they enjoy it, what they're getting out of it. And I just love that. I just do backflips over that. And some of it I see from afar, thanks to the wonderful algorithms that don't show you what you really want to see. So I don't see everything, but I do see a little bit. For your program, you are offering a scholarship.
Yeah, we have a great scholarship program. So the course is called Transition into UX for Healthcare. It's on Maven, and you can find information on it and on me and on the scholarship at hxrlabs.com, HXR, not RX, but HXR, Healthcare Experience Research Labs.com. And we've given away now over $62,000 over the last year and a half. to just shy of 200 scholarship recipients from all over the world. And so I was determined when I started the class that for anybody who sincerely wanted to take the course, that I didn't want tuition to be an obstacle. And I also sort of really firmly believe, and this is from, previous kind of teaching experience and environments, the more range and diversity, and that includes economic diversity and age diversity and, diversity in experience and location and, and race and gender and all of that, that creates a better learning environment for everybody. And so it's really proven true because sometimes, often, of course, the scholarship, applicants are really driven to do great work. And so they really, really, apply themselves, and they're, being extra helpful to other students. And then they merge with the clinicians who are inevitably in the class. And then they learn and get mentored from the people who are more experienced in UX who are moving into healthcare. And so it creates this really great kind of peer environment that's stronger than it would be, I think, if it were gated just, at the same price for everybody, because even just geo arbitrage on currency can make it prohibitive, right? And so it's worked out amazingly well. It's super rewarding, and it's everybody who gets the scholarship, I ask them to pass it on the application to at least one more person. And so, some people might look at my books and say I'm giving away a lot, but I don't really look at it that way. I think for me, actually, of all the different things I do, teaching isn't what's, 100% paying the bills, but it's the most rewarding thing that I do is giving back and meeting people and helping them get a foot in the door, and geeking out with them. And we just had this morning the new cohort, and it's that kind of back to school feeling, right? You get excited and again, nerd alert, but I love it. So it's great. And the alumni communities, over 500 people. We got folks everywhere from Mayo Clinic to, Cigna to CVS. We got a bunch of people working at CVS, just most of the major places you could think of. And it just keeps growing. So yeah, it's fun. I'd love just to anybody listening, if you don't overthink it, just apply, and if you have a sincere desire to learn, we'll get you taken care of.
That is phenomenal. And learning is the backbone. I think education is the backbone of UX operation. It is a foundational element to a person excelling when it comes to personal UX maturity. And one of the problems that happened when I talk about the siege against UX that started at 2011, one of the reasons that we experienced that siege against the discipline is because education was not structured properly. You had very few institutions of higher learning that were offering any education with regard to UX at all. One of the reasons that a lot of people used to go to conferences was because you could learn so much at a conference, but that changed after 2011. And to this day, you really have a hard time going to a conference and coming out. The best part of conferences is interacting with people in between sessions or after the sessions are done, because a lot of the people who are on stage, I hate to call it a stage, but for lack of a better word, I'll call it a stage. A lot of the people are on stage. I've talked to those, I've seen a lot of those people, personas. There's a persona. It's the UX celebritism persona. They just, and I want to speak at a conference. And nice. I've seen so many people say that. And the people who do that, they have nothing to offer. They are buzzword addicts, a lot of them. They're trying to make a name for themselves. I talked about this recently. I saw somebody, they were having an event. The person who was heading up the event had been in UX for roughly 2 years. The people, they had two speakers at the event. Both of them had been in UX for 2 years. They were all calling each other leaders.
Right.
They're still entry level. and interestingly, a lot of people, they want nothing to do with the people who do have something. to offer. And I love the book entitled The Death of Expertise. And there's a lot of wonderful things that are mentioned in that book. When we start to value it and we all start learning the same way, you'll see a stability start to be restored in the discipline, instead of people who cover things at a high level and then send you on your way, tell you that you learned everything in 6 months and things of that nature. The boot camps were doing that at one time.
Yeah.
That's not good. So people like you, people like I can't remember what it was called, where the different people who are helping people to learn about research. I think it's called Curiosity Bank. I can't remember the name of it. But
Nice.
but there are some places to learn. If you can't get a 4-year degree, if you don't want to get a master's degree, there are still ways. There are people who have programs set up, such as what Eric is doing, that will really help provide you with some stability and are not trying to build a followership. They're not trying to, because some of these people, they operate like cults.
Right.
They're not really helping you. They're building dependency. They are turning off your critical thinking. That's what cults do.
Yep.
They're turning off your critical thinking. And so a lot of people got educated with the wrong information. And that's why you see a bunch of people saying UX UI now, because somebody taught them that. But if somebody taught them that, that means that they didn't understand something. That's
dude, you're an impartial ref, and I've done this, like I said at the beginning, of like over a decade now, and that's how we originally became friends. Is we would find ourselves on the same ramparts, defending just basic sanity,
Yes.
right, of our field, as everybody kind of stampeded in, and we would get called gatekeepers and such. And I think we bonded, but we would just keep popping up like that's like. But you gotta have standards. There has to be some level of rigor and discipline there. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, folks, take advantage. I'm going to put a link to HXR Labs in the description for the show. So even the people who don't listen to the show will still see it. And that'll give them an opportunity to go out there and chime in, because I like vaulting the discipline forward. It's not about following me. It's not about listening to me. It's about principles. It's about rigor. It's about integrity. It's about doing things the right way. And I say it all the time. I am not going to be here. I keep fighting for the well-being of the discipline, but once the ship is righted, I'm not going to be around to partake of it. So it can't be about me, because I'm not going to reap anything from it. And everything I do, talk about giving back. You said that, man, 8, 9, 10 times possibly in this episode. It's you got to give back. The people who have got to give back. You see people like Jesse James Garrett giving back. Alan Cooper's retired, but he still gives back. You see people who care about the discipline. Another person who was I've seen who was a leader in the discipline, just retired from another big company, but still giving back. So giving back is what vaults us forward. It helps people to understand what we need to do so we can thrive, and help people overcome the abstraction that is UX, because it's abstract until you embed yourself in the principles, and then the abstraction starts to go away, and now you're not trying to operate in a fog. We don't want you to operate in a fog. We want you to see clearly and to thrive in what you do. And that's why I do what I do. That's why Eric does what he does. So, sir, thank you again for taking the time to join me on today. Do you have any closing words for the audience today?
A pleasure and an honor. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Darren. It's always so great. I love our ability to, go through on the focused topic, but then go through this range of ideas. I think you just have a really great way of conducting these. So yeah, it was just a great honor to be here. Thanks again.
Thank you. I'm honored to have you here. And folks, I am lining the guests up. And so we've got some people that are gonna be coming on the show. Some folks that some people will know, some people they don't. But the name of the game is I want to have people on the show that are going to be responsible and impart accountability, and again, help everybody to be better at what we do so we can all succeed. So thanks again, Eric. And folks, thank you for taking the time to listen to the show today. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe. Help us beat the algorithms so that the good stuff can get out there that will help people out. But until next time, this is Darren Hood, the host of The World of UX, wishing everybody all the best. Until next time, folks, happy UXing, everybody.